All right, and what we've been dealing with so far are grayscale images. And each of these images corresponds to data which has been collected by the sensor in a particular band of the electromagnetic spectrum. And so this guy up here is from band 7. I'm going to unclick this guy. What we see here is now from band 5. This is from band 4, and you can see there's differences for these different guys. And just looking at this, we can see that there's places which are very dark, and then there's places which are a little bit brighter. And what you're actually seeing there is a function of how reflective that surface is to the electromagnetic radiation in that particular band that strikes that object or that surface. And so places which are really dark, and we can look at the data values here. This guy has a data value of 8. Presumably the electromagnetic radiation, which was, came from the sun and went through space and passed through our atmosphere and struck this surface. Not very much of that electromagnetic radiation made it off of that surface back to the sensor. And again, you have to think it, and then it goes back through our atmosphere and then eventually up to this particular satellite. Whereas something like over here, this much brighter guy, this has a digital number of 157. And we can see it's much lighter in color. Much more of that radiation was able to bounce off and then again come back to the sensor. So that's what we're actually seeing when we look at these types of images. But our eyes, although we can detect these changes in grayscale, right, from very dark to very light, our eyes are sensitive to visible light, and so we can see color. And so obviously we might want to take advantage of that in doing our remote sensing analytical work. And towards that end, it's probably worthwhile to just briefly talk. I don't want to get into color theory here too much, but I'm thinking about additive color theory, and you can think about your monitor and how it's presenting you all these different beautiful colors. And it's doing it's RGB. So R is for red, G is for green, and B is for blue. And through different combinations of these 3 pure colors, we can get all the other colors in the rainbow. We're just seeing some of the different examples right here. And so your computer monitor is made up of, if you zoomed super far in on this guy and took it apart, of red and green and blue diodes, presumably light emitting diodes. And through different firing combinations of those 3 pure colors, you get all of the colors that we're seeing. And if they're all cranked up all the way, you get white. And if they're all at 0, you get black. And if it's just red and just green, you get yellow, right? You guys know all this stuff. Okay, so I just wanted to sort of talk about that. Just, and if that is totally unfamiliar to you, you might want to go on to Wikipedia and check that out a little bit. But what we want to do is to take advantage of the ability of the computer and our eyes to see color by combining these individual images into an RGB image. And so we will actually see color, and there'll be more information. So instead of just seeing information from one particular band, we get information from 3 bands at the same time. And that will really help us understand what we're looking at. And the way we can do that is we can use this toolbox over here. So we've got this guy, and actually it would look like this when you first saw, I know which one do I want? Okay, raster management. So we're dealing with raster images, raster management, and the one we want to deal with is layer stacking. So if you double click on this guy, it's going to bring up this little window here. And since they're all collected from the same sensor on the same day and everything, you don't need to worry about any of these, the map projection. That's all already figured out for you. So don't worry about any of that. What we do need to worry about is importing the files. And so we're going to take all of these files. So you select them all and you say, okay, and we don't want a subset, we want the whole scene. So you just select these guys, you say, okay, it pops them in, and the way it is what we have is band 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And so that's the order we want. If we wanted to reorder them, we could, but we don't want to. It's inclusive, fantastic, and then we want to choose an output file name. And oh man, it's buried us way in and it's a temp directory. And this is terrible. This is awful. So we're going to cancel this, and we're going to do what we did before. We're going to go up here. We're going to go to preferences. And this time we're going to go to data manager. And so now directories, and we've already messed with the default input directory. Now we want to mess with the output directory, because I don't want to screw around with this temp and all this stuff. So again, what we're going to do is you're going to navigate to the place where you're saving your data, and this will be different than what I'm doing right here, but the directory that you want this stuff to get to. So, and again, once you do it once, it should be, at least for the session that you're sitting in, kind of a one-shot deal. And so lab 1, and then I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to say OK. And so now when I open this tool, and hopefully this is getting too long, I import these files. OK, and I'm going to choose an output file name. Oh, fantastic. I don't have to screw around too much with other directories. And so I'm going to put this guy in here, and I'm going to call this thing Landsat 7. And no spaces, this is important, no spaces in the name, Landsat 7 boulder, because this is what this imagery is. That's the area that we're dealing with here. Okay, so then I say, oh, and nearest, we're going to leave all these defaults. Okay, we got this guy, and we say, okay. Look at that guy just tear through there. And we've got a new image that's been popped up here. Landsat 7 boulder, but it's still gray. It's still gray. What is the problem here? Well, what we can do is we can use this data manager tool to help us. And so we can see we've got this new guy here, right? And so within this one, there's all these different layers. These are the individual files which have now been stacked. They've been combined. And we can select these different bands. We can select these different bands. And so what we're going to do is we can go down under here into band selection, and we can assign to the red a particular image. We can assign to the green a particular image, and assign to the blue a particular image. And once we do that and load it, we will then have a very lovely color image. So what we're going to do is we're going to put band 3, and I'm going to bring this over in the red. And so this guy's highlighted, so I click on this guy. So band 3, because this ends in NN30, and the 3 is for the 3. And then what we're going to want to do is band 2 in the green, and then band 1 in the blue. And we're going to load that data. And look at that. Now we are talking, right? Because now this is now our eyes are happy, because we see this all the time, typically, unless we're horribly colorblind when we look at things. So I think that's probably more than enough for this little segment.